Hey, today we have Kevin Blue joining us from sunny California. Kevin is a father of 6, grandfather of 8, and a business owner. Welcome to the Brotherhood, Kevin.
Hey guys.
It's really cool to have you. I know we've been kind of chatting back and forth for quite a while. So yeah, you're in California, probably like the third most shut down state in the United States. So
well, it's very socialist. They call it the Socialist Republic of California.
Yeah,
we're very highest taxed. We got a bunch of Karens here that's like, do this, do that, and I would like to leave. I have a business that if I could find someone to run it, I could take it anywhere. I'm in high demand, so I would like to leave. But my wife's kind of stuck here being a teacher. She's only 50. She can't retire for another 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Plus her parents are still, if she moves from where she works, she loses her tenure and her pension, and her parents are up there and they still, so they're still around.
Yeah, that's a tough scenario. I don't know how many listeners are dealing with this. I'm 47. My parents live in Oregon. My in-laws live in Oregon. I live in Texas. Our state is very red, very, very conservative, moving more the kind of middle just by people moving. But and we did that on purpose. We moved to a place where the schools, very high level schools, and the belief and government was in line with our own beliefs. Coming from Oregon, it was the massive change. But it is really difficult. It's been difficult to move away as your family ages and you want to be around. I spent last week hanging with my dad back in Oregon. So I totally understand that. Have you had friends move out of California just to simply get away?
Oh yeah, it's like tons of friends. The Denhams, the Lefevers moved to Idaho. The Shiveleys are on their way to probably Idaho. The Worleys are in Texas. Texas and Idaho are my two target states. My wife loves Tennessee. I took her to Tennessee. We went to Graceland. She just loves it. And California is really, really red when it comes to the citizens. I mean, it's like there's so many people here that are conservative, but everybody at the tippity top that's calling the shots are not.
Yeah.
And that's just the saddest thing, because when I was 18, as Ronald Reagan was president, and it was a lot different. We were very red back then. Even when he was governor, I was a little bit, I was younger, but we used to be a very conservative state, and then it just got flipped, and it's really sad. Now they're talking about taxing every mile. I drive 16,000 miles a year in my work van, and they want to tax me on top of that. So,
yeah, I've seen recently that the gas tax in California has been outrageous.
I think it's like $1.30 a gallon.
Yeah, I saw $1 not too long ago, and I was telling my dad, and he's like, "You what? When you have gas prices rising, and then you add over $1 of gas tax per gallon, that's incredible."
Well, they passed this law where where now we can't vote for it, and the thing is, I've been driving for 40 years or more, and I'm driving over the same potholes I did as a kid. And we're the highest tax, so the money never goes to where it's supposed to go. And that's the biggest problem with being overtaxed. Is it's like, if you got one kid and you give them $100 and say, go to the store and get me, a gallon of milk, and you come back and there's $95, you're like, cool. And then you give the other kid $100, you go give me a gallon of milk, and you come back and there's $30. That's what's happening with our, they're just spending money that's not theirs to spend. This crazy. Have you heard about the bullet train?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, when I was in high school, and our governor at the time, Jerry Brown, was doing it. So for over 45 years, this bullet train has been, they're spending money, and it's not anything's getting done. It's really, in theory, it'd be nice to have, but it's like, man, if they would have built it 40 years ago, they could have been making money for 40 years.
Yeah. Well, California's infrastructure for transportation is horrid. There's been efforts, and of course, Elon had his efforts, and now he's exited, and that's not helping anything. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast a couple months ago. I haven't listened to him for probably 5 months, but I was listening to him and he was talking about his move to Austin, Texas. And he's like, the traffic here is awesome. And I'm like going, from my perspective, the traffic in Austin is horrific. And I'm like, how bad is LA? Like, how bad is it that he's saying Austin's traffic is awesome? I'm like,
well, I'll tell you what, I look for the positive. So, we got this nonsense called the pandemic, believe it or not, if you want to, that's good. Some of the positives, I look for the good in everything. The Bible tells me, be joyful, always pray continually, and give thanks in all circumstances, for that's God's will. It's in the book of Thessalonians. So the traffic has gotten so much better in the last year, and now it's getting back. So I live in Huntington Beach, which is give or take 20 miles, 20, 30 miles, about 20 miles from the South Bay, Redondo Beach type of, and I work there a lot. One of my offices out there. And sometimes it would take me, if I had an 9 o'clock job, I'd have to leave at 8:30 to get there on time, 90 minutes to get 20 miles. And lately it's like when the pandemic started, I wasn't factoring that in, and I'd get there early. I'd get there an hour early. And it's like now I've learned to, check my GPS the day before and see what we're up against. And so now it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get there, little to no traffic, and it's getting worse.
yeah.
So a lot of people, good things, a lot of people are that have been forced to work at home are finding out that it works better. So it's really changing the dynamics. The real estate market for commercials is changing because they don't need all that office space, which is kind of cool. My wife's been working at home. Our living room is kind of a classroom, and she goes back and forth. She can teach in her classroom and Zoom, or she can do it at home, or she can do it wherever she wants. And then now they've done a couple days, they're entertaining going back to school. So, which has been different. I tell her on our next anniversary, I need to add 3 years because we've been side by side for the last year, and luckily we get along great.
Yeah, man, there's so many things to talk about here, and probably going to get a little more political and a little more, maybe religious based than normal. So if you're a listener and that bothers you, too bad. So the pandemic, I want to sit in this for a bit. It's been talked to death, so I don't really want to go too crazy with it, but it is a conversation in our house. Okay. Is COVID real? Yes, I had it. It sucked. And I still have crap that comes out of my lungs when I cough, and I'm still coughing. So yeah, it's real. Were the numbers skewed? There's no way in my mind that they couldn't have been. And they're still retracting numbers. And now they don't count deaths that, where someone has COVID, but that's not how the death occurred. It's just, so we got all these things going on. The mask thing. I've really struggled with the mask thing. I'm finally starting to get used to it. Now, a lot of people say, oh, Texas lifted its mask ban. They're all going to get sick. Well, our numbers are going down. There's still a lot of people wearing masks and a lot of businesses wearing masks. Here's where I see the difference. And I'm curious what your thoughts are from a state where, you are mandated with them. If a business gets to decide if you wear a mask or not, I'm going to respect that. I'm probably going to go more to the places where you don't have to wear a mask because I feel fine. I've had COVID. I got through it pretty easily. I know it's not a death risk for me or my family, but I love the choice. To me, it's all about the choice. The business has decided we're going to let you not, or we're going to force you to. And then I get to make the choice of whether I go to that business or not. How do you feel about that situation?
I'm right there with you. I know a year ago, January, I was sick. Felt like I got hit by a truck. And, all this, I call my doctor and he says, well, can you taste? And I go, yeah. And he goes, can you smell? And he goes, well, if it gets worse, come on in. And so in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, did I have COVID back in January 2020 before COVID was a household word? Everybody wants me to get the vaccination, and I want to wait. I'm like, I'll let everybody else get it. Here's me. My granddaughter, she's 17. She breaks it down. My age, 57. My weight, I'm clinically obese because I weigh 220 and I'm 5'7". I had a stroke a compromised immune system, and I'm diabetic. So you would think that, but I'm out every day working and doing what I need to do. So I just say my body, my choice.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
I wear a mask out of respect. I advertised a little no contact picture, guy with the mask on, and clients like it. I like the fact that people are learning how to wash their hands and be a little more, a little better hygiene.
Yeah, me too.
It's like I'm an AA, so when I go to AA, I've always been a germaphobe, especially in AA, because you see people like, picking their nose. I seen a guy one time took his shoes off and he's digging the toe jam out of his feet, and then when it's time to pray out, I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. So it's gotten really, really gross. So I've always kind of been a germaphobe. I like the fact that I would sanitize before and after job anyways, because I'm, my job's dirty. So my my procedure before COVID is I would go out to the back of my van and I have these bleach wipes, and I'd clean my body, I'd clean my face, I'd sanitize, I'd take my shirt off, I'd put on a new work shirt, and then I'd sanitize, and then I'd wear a mask to keep the dust out. And so the only difference now is I have a mask that I wear when I knock on the door. And then, some people say, I don't care. And some people are like, yeah, wear a mask, and they're sneezing and coughing all over the place. And I shaved my beard because the mask was rubbing a hole in me. And then I finally found one that's comfortable. It goes over, it presses down so my glasses don't, mess with it. It's got earlobes, and then it's got a Velcro on the back, and it's comfortable. It's got little breathers. And my son uses them to work out, and he showed them to me. So as far as wearing the mask, I'll do it, to when needed, but it just makes no sense to wear 24/7 walking outside.
Right. Yeah. So my struggle, and I'll be real here, my struggle was initially with the mask is people telling me to do it. It really pissed me off. Having the government say you have to do it. That was my biggest issue. When I reframed it in my mind, it's like, look, some people have compromised immune systems. Some people just live in fear, and that's okay. And so I'll do it out of respect, and I'll do it, if someone asks me to, I'll do it. And I've really had to work hard on my mindset of like, this isn't about me at this point. It's about someone else. So I was a little more on the rebellious side. The government's telling me to do it and not, but once I reframed, then it's like, what does it matter? It's a little uncomfortable, but I'm always talking about how you need to lean into the uncomfortable and be okay with it. It fights my internal rebellion a little bit, but yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And I've said this multiple times. When Jocko was asked about pandemic early on, he said, so we have the pandemic. Good. Like, what are you going to bring? How are you going to grow out of this situation? And I felt like it brought a lot of growth opportunity for a lot of people, and a lot of people have become Karens as well.
A lot of people, what I like about it, I like to see the dudes that persevere. Okay. That, okay, I can't turn left right now. I got to go straight. I'm going to make this work. I wear it around my in-laws because they're in their 90s and they're scared, and I want to see them. And we're talking my in-laws, they're Colombians. So when you go to their house, 25 people there, you're going to get 25 kisses, hello, 25 hugs. And when you leave, you're going to get 25 kisses and hugs. And I miss that. We used to have this tradition. They had a tradition. I was like grafted in, where we'd go over Christmas Eve, eat, we'd wear our pajamas, we'd all eat at the house, and we'd hang out, play games. And then at midnight, we'd unwrap presents and go home. And this year we didn't do it. This Easter, we're not even going to see them. So that's the hard part. So when I have no problem wearing it around them, especially inside the house, because the ventilation may not be as good, but outside or whatever, I don't find it as necessary, but I do comply. And I think, honestly, if, not to turn this political or to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I think if President Trump would have said, I demand everybody to wear their masks, the left would have said, no, we're not doing it, burn our bras type thing, my body, my choice. But when he didn't go inside and side with everybody, it became a big problem. Everybody fought him. The people that hate him, and they'll do the opposite. So I thought maybe if he would have took a little different spin, it might have been different. But
yeah, yeah, we could go down that rabbit hole, whether you liked him or not. whether you liked him or not. I was somewhere in the middle. I liked his policies. I didn't like how he didn't have that presidential delivery that people would accept.
Right.
Good, bad, or indifferent. I don't, if you're a leader, you have to lead. That's job number one. But if you are objective and you're really into seeing really what happened, you can look at news clips when, like, here's a very clear and current one. You can look at news clips when Trump asked for, it was some billions of dollars to improve like infrastructure and stuff in the United States. It was, maybe 20, 30 billion. I don't remember. And the news media, you can go back and you can watch the same news media, the same these reporters, and they're just bashing them. Where's this money coming? It doesn't grow on trees, blah, 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 and just going on and on. Just recently, our newest president, Biden, introduced a bill for multiple trillions doing the same type of things, and the exact same news media, exact same reporters are like, this is the best thing. He really cares about America. No one's asking where the money's from. No one's shaming him. That's where you see whether you're left, right, middle, far right, far left. I don't care if you look at it in a scientific way and you take sample A and you take sample B, you put them side by side and you're like, whoa, something's wrong here, because we have the same message coming from both these different guys and it's being delivered in completely different clothing. And one was a villain and one is incompetent and is the savior right now.
Well, do you remember the skating rink in New York?
No.
Okay, so there's a skate rink in New York that was being built and it was being mismanaged and they were spending billions of dollars and nothing was getting done. And then Donald Trump came in when he was a New Yorker and said, I'm going to take the project over. And if it's not done on time, I'm going to pay for it. So this project that was supposed to take years, he had it done within 6 months. It's been making money ever since. And if you look at what he did to the skyline of Manhattan, turned it from what it was to what it is, they were praising him. Once he came down the escalator, it was so different. And when he first was running, I was like, I wasn't too sure, but I was like, I heard a meme that said, he's like a really good doctor with really bad bedside manner.
That's a really great analogy.
He's going to tell you, he's going to do what's right, but he's not going to, you got this or that. So the country I grew up in, every man on my dad's side, every generation on the blue side has been in the military since the Revolutionary War. So I trace this all back all the way, pre-US, Revolutionary War on up to my grandson, he's kind of a step grandson. I forget what part of the Army he's in, but he's out in Virginia. So he got to do the 21 gun salute for Biden when he got inaugurated.
I think that's the missing piece here is respect. Now, they hold the office and they got it through a process, and there's a level of respect that you just have to keep. And this is my message to men, whether you completely like, if you're fuming mad right now at something I said, here's the way I see it. If you cannot, offense cannot be given. It can only be taken. So if you're taking offense, that's on you, man. Like, you don't have to take anything I say for anything. But if you want to be a man who like displays values to your family, respect the office, no matter who's in it. And that's what we lost when Trump was in office. If you hated him, if you loved him, it doesn't matter. The office started to be disrespected. And then we've started this really bad direction now where the office isn't being respected in return because it was so disrespected through Trump's presidency. And now what's everybody going to do that was on the receiving side of that in their mind? They're going to turn around and disrespect the office now, which is, it's really sad. It's really bad.
Well, my pretty much my adult life, whenever I had my own place, I always had a 8x10 picture of the president framed and hanging on my wall. And I had friends come over, and clown on me because of Obama. I'm like, he's our president. I don't care if you like him or not. It's not political. He's our president. And Then when I got pictures of Trump up there, it got bad, and I haven't yet put a Biden picture up there because I'm not sure if I should just put Biden or Kamala. But
joke, isn't it? Yeah.
It's bad. And the thing that I didn't like was, I think that once again, whether they hate you or not, hate him or not, Trump didn't get the honeymoon of the presidency. You never seen him on the magazines. They disrespected his wife, who speaks 6, 7 languages fluently. She's the epitome of the American dream.
Incredibly bright. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just really sad. And man, I had something I wanted to say, and I completely forgot what it was. But that's part of being my age. But do you remember my first post on the Brotherhood?
I probably will if you remind me.
It was basically my belief. I had a picture of an umbrella.
Yeah, I do. Oh yeah,
okay.
We got some kickback on that one.
And I just, at first I'm like biting my tongue. I don't have to. This is my belief.
Yep. And
I just let it go. And then when you contact me, say, hey, I'm going to pull it because it's just, I got it. I wasn't mad. I understood. I mistakenly just thought everybody had the same belief in me, and they go, oh, this is golden. And for some people who don't believe in God, it's not golden. It's not, not everybody believes in God like I do.
Well, and
that's there's an arc which through we pass, and he's a cornerstone of what I believe.
Right.
And it's really worked for me. Before I believed in the God of Kevin, my life was a nightmare.
Yeah. And I'm in the same circle, man. I saw that post. I thought it was awesome. And then I started getting grief. And here's I've made some personal shifts in how I run the group since then. So I pulled it just because I'm like, I don't have the emotional space for this right now. Cause I'm a keyboard smasher when that stuff starts to happen and I get myself in trouble. What I've decided is look, people are going to have different views, different beliefs, and I'm going to respect them for where they are, but I'm going to hold fast to what I believe. And so that one was a lot about, your hierarchy, as I call it, your ladder of values, God first, and then the man's role in a family. And I'm a very firm believer that we are the leader of the family. It's actually a question to get into the Brotherhood now. Or do you consider yourself the leader of the family? And so I loved it. I thought it was great, but I think we have to live on principles, not on feelings. And a lot of people are living on feelings right now. They're like, I don't like Trump. Like, who cares?
Right.
I didn't like my boss the last, three jobs ago. Who cares? He was providing what I needed provided at the time. No one needed to hear about it. That's on me. I think we need to get way more into the type of mindset that we control our response, and we don't need to flush all of our concerns and feelings on everybody else. We speak what we believe is true.
One thing I learned.
Go ahead.
One thing I learned in recovery is reaction versus response. Mm-hmm. What's your response? What's your reaction? Because for me, AA 12 steps was that crash course that I should have paid attention to in kindergarten. Be nice to other people and do this, do that, and be respectful. I was given an imaginary hula hoop when I got into recovery. Some guy walked up to me and he went like this. I'm like, what the heck? And he goes, sit still. I go, what are you doing? He goes, I just gave you a hula hoop. It's around your body. I go, okay. What do I do with it? He goes, you only worry about what gets inside your hula hoop. And I was like, and he'd come up to me like this. He goes, it stops there, dude. Because I was, I like to gossip. I like to be the, the guy that would pick out things that bothered me in other people, which was things that I was really doing. And I'm by no means perfect. I try to be the best Kevin, the best husband, the best dad, the best stepdad, the best grandpa I could be today. And then tomorrow, now I got that bar, I just keep going up. It's really cool having all my grandkids just love me, love me. I had grandparents, I had on my dad's side were kind and loving. On my mom's side, they weren't. And I later found out what probably motivated them. But, my grandma on my mom's side, I'll just say it, she was a bitch. She was mean. And my grandma on my dad's side was nice and loving. And she gave everybody the illusion that you were her favorite. So that's the goal I try to. I remember at 4 years old, I have a very good long-term memory. I remember 4, maybe 5 years old, thinking to myself, when I'm a grandpa, I'm never going to be like that guy. And so I've my grandkids, I get to pay it forward.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good lesson, is learn from the past. Don't repeat the past things. That don't show them, or, this happened to me, so you deserve it too. But I want to go back to the hula hoop, because it's a concept that Josh and I have talked about, like, till we're red in the face early in the Brotherhood days, is when we talk about marriage, like, draw a line or a circle around yourself. And that's what you're concerned with when it comes to your marriage, because if you work on you, your marriage will be better. And I love the analogy that the crazy guy at AA, he's like just doing this instead of telling you. But it left a mark on you, right? Like, hey,
it very much so.
Yeah. You as a listener may not agree with Kevin. You may not agree with me on our political, on our religious, and like, look, is that inside of your control? Absolutely not. Work on what's inside of your control, your own beliefs. Work on like being more understanding of why you have those beliefs, where they come from. Prove it to yourself. If you're questioning, you absolutely must. And if you want help, you ask other people. You bring them, because you have that control to bring them into your thought control, your thought patterns. And so when we are keyboard warriors, someone says something we don't like or don't agree with, you're jumping out of your hoop and basically punching people in the face and trying to drag them into your hoop. And
right.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, look, we're not all going to see eye to eye. And really what people are going to buy into is the way you live. Bottom
right. For me, for the people who might listen to this and still listening, to the entirety, that don't like what I say or what I believe on the outside of the hula hoop, know this, that family is first. My moral compass is directed toward God and being more Christ-like. Some people do basketball and they want to be like Mike. I want to be Christ-like. I fall short daily. I'm not here to convert you, but I am here to share the gospel if anybody wants it. But I'm not the Main Street Moses hitting you over the head with the Bible telling you turn or burn, because that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But family in my life is first. And the same thing with the hula hoop is my wife and I are equally yoked. It's something that they talk about in the Bible. We're side by side. I've never been with anybody in my life that has loved me like my wife does.
Right.
It's like I feel like a teenager. She's what I've been looking for my whole life. And she says the same about me when she tells me things, because I'm usually, you're a piece of this, you're worthless, and my wife prays over me. I pray over her when we leave every day. She gives me permission to represent the family. Yeah. And to me, that's golden. I can send you later. I'll send you a text that she sent to me when I was on vacation, how she prays over me. And it's funny, when I met her, she was I met her online and her profile said Catholic. It's not, okay, what's that about? Because I was super Christian. And and she laid it down how she believes. So now today I identify as half Catholic. I'm half Catholic. Sometimes I'll watch Catholic Mass and we go to church every morning, and we're members of our church, and we do things with the church. And it's like, my church family is the best treehouse. It's the treehouse theory. I'm invited into the club, and I feel happy with that.
Yeah. My last 2 guests ago was talking about Sean Rowan. He was talking about how his wife is his best friend. And if that isn't the case, like, you really need to work on getting there, because it's an incredible, you said it, you feel like you're a teenager. Like, that's how I feel too. My wife is my absolute best friend, and there's so much freedom. There's so much excitement and fun in that. And I think that's a missing key in a lot of marriages, is they forget that that's really what it's all about.
My wife lets me go on adventures. I get to go all across this beautiful country. If I want to go see somebody, being in AA, we went to Akron, and we were going to go to Akron, and then we were going to go to the inauguration. And it just got, we planned this trip a year ago. So when it didn't turn out the way we liked, and we thought that it might be crazy, politically, not a good idea. So we just skipped on the inauguration. But she's let me go all over, and she lets me do this a lot.
Yeah, that's
she trusts me.
That equal that equal trust is so important. And
Yeah,
we have to prove that we're trust. I mean, we shouldn't have to, but we should every day act in a way that is trustworthy. Right. So
exactly.
yeah. Yeah. Here's a few questions I have for you. You're a business owner, and business owners aren't, they're, they're cut from a different cloth. I know I'm one, but what drives you? What drove you to do your own business, and what drives you every day? Because we all know, all of those that have built our own businesses, it is not a bump free ride. Every day is a new disaster that you are working through, or, it's not what some people make it to be. So what is it that drives you?
Well, I've always been in business for myself since I was 18. I was never good at it. Ray Kroc says he's an overnight success, 30 years in the making. You ever watch a show called How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
Okay, you know Lily's father? I forget what his name is, the redheaded guy.
Yep.
He's always inventing games. These just crazy games. These just, one was called like dumpster or something like that. So I kind of relate to that. I was always having these crazy kind of freaking mad scientist schemes that just won't work. And I tried to be a carpet cleaner, but everybody around me was a carpet cleaner. And it was just like, you can go to the phone book and see 30 carpet cleaners. And I just couldn't make a cut at it. As I got sober, my father bought me a bunch of carpet cleaning equipment because my stuff got stolen. So when I got sober, I had this equipment that was probably 10 years old and never been used. So I was able to jump back into the carpet cleaning business. And a man named Sam Martin, who owned this business called All Clean, introduced me to air duct and dryer vent cleaning. And at first I was against it, but then I started getting into it. And I remember when I started my August 3rd, 2001, I started my air duct cleaning business, and people thought I was crazy. They thought this will never work. And, and I honestly should have went out of business in 2007, 8, and 9, but I was too stubborn. And the only thing that really kept me was the same phone number. I've had the same number since I started, a toll-free number. So when all that nonsense of the 2007 and 8 was over, my number was the only working phone number. And then all of a sudden I went from doing 10 jobs a year to doing 10 jobs a day. And now my company is the premier air duct dryer vent cleaning company. I have a challenge to anybody that does what I do. I am the champion in my industry. And I challenge that against anybody, because in that slow time, I was getting certifications. I've got so many certifications in cleaning, it would make your head spin. But the only two that make me work are the air duct and dryer vent cleaning. There's so many carpet cleaners and tile cleaners and floor cleaners and spot cleaners. I just couldn't make money at it. Right now, my business card used to look like a help wanted ad. It had everything I did on it, and it was just confusing. And somebody goes, where are you making money at? And when I told them that, so now I do air duct / dryer vent cleaning.
So yeah, and, you bring up a few things. You held fast during the massive economic upturn, 2007, 2008. We just had COVID. I'm sure things.
You want to know why?
Why is that?
Well, back then I tried. I couldn't even get a job at Walmart or Target due to the wreckage of my past, and that saved me, because if that would have been the case, I'd still be a greeter today. Hey, welcome to Walmart. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it just, I couldn't even get a job at that, so that kept me moving on. It kept me moving on. I had lost my house. I lost my cars. I lost everything I had in storage. I abandoned my work van at a house that was taken from me. Well, it wasn't taken from me. I couldn't pay for it. So they asked for it back, but nobody rented or anything. And I went back to school and got a Pell Grant. And it took me 3 semesters to get money. So 5,300 times 3, I got a check for 15 grand. I drove by and my van was still there. I got in, fired it up. I registered it. That was kind of my saving grace. All my equipment was in it. And I just kind of walked away. I'm reading a book by Sean Whalen, where he's talking about that time where he walked away from everything. And I related. I walked away from everything. And then it was like, when I came back and started back up, I got back into business. People thought I was crazy. And within 2 years, I was, doing over 100 grand a year working part-time.
Yeah. And that's such a good lesson. You didn't have an exit plan. You didn't have an exit option because of your past. And I think that's a really good lesson for business owners, because I watch a lot of business owners bail when things get tough, and because they have an exit plan. They're like, I'm going to go work in corporate, or I'm going to go back to having a job with somebody. I know personally that's a personal hell once you've ran your own business. Usually is like, oh, that's horrible. But just that option. And so I kind of feel like the Cortez story, burn your boats. Like they were going to take that island, and it's like, no, burn the boats. We're not going to turn around. We're going to conquer. If we don't, we have no way out. And
that was amazing. That was an amazing story. Yeah.
Yeah. So the burn the boats is really good for people like me and entrepreneurs who haven't burned their boats. Well, I've seen the ones that keep a boat at dock and then they exit when there could have been massive upside, like you've had with your business. Your business thrived. It saw a growth point, and you're working part-time and you're making an incredible living for yourself and your family. There was no exit, and you didn't choose to burn the boats. It was just part of your
Right.
past. But I think it's a good lesson for folks that have boats at bay, like dump them. Like, I've been this guy jumping back and forth from land to boat, and I burned my boat. A few months ago, I burned my boat, and there's a ton of freedom in there. And guess what? You have no choice but to succeed when you burn your boats.
Well, when I was evicted and my storage was sold and my truck was repoed, it was the most freeing time I ever had. I remember when I first got sober, and I would say, I can't wait till I get my shit together. And somebody with a little more time to say, you know what happens when you get your shit together? And I go, what? Because you got a big pile of shit. So when all that was taken from me, we lost the house. I still had the truck. I'm driving away. I got my grandkids in the car because their father was away, and I was taking care of it. And my granddaughter, I'm crying. And my granddaughter goes, Papa, can I make the sign? I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, Papa, can I make the sign? And I look back and go, what are you talking about? She's 4, like, maybe 5. What are you talking about, sweetie? And she goes, we're homeless. Can I make the sign? And I just like chuckled. And I said, we're not that homeless. We're not there yet. And it gave me kind of like, oh yeah, left to my own devices, the pity party invitations went out. I was like, poor me. Everybody's picking on me, don't you know? And it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And so it gave me kind of like, I'm not there yet. And it gave me, I was able to get a job working at Petco, washing dogs. And I did that for a couple of years. I went back to school. I got my AA in speaking, public speaking, and never used it, but it kept me busy for those 2 years when keeping that phone number was the hardest thing. There's times when I didn't have the $10, and it would lapse. And then on the third month, I'd owe them $30 to owe that, keep that line going. And that was, there was times when I was like, do I eat today or do I make this bill? And I'd make that bill. And now it's like, I see the rewards. I like to pass out business cards or flyers on houses. And I remember I said to myself, there's going to be a time and place when I'm going to look back at this and be thankful for the investment I put in.
Yeah.
It's like, as Sean Whalen's talking about the elephant, it's one bite at a time.
Absolutely. It is one bite at a time. I mean, you've shown incredible perseverance in the little things that mattered. I also like the story of pretty much losing everything, but then having that like aha moment from your granddaughter, like, no, I haven't lost everything. And
right.
Yeah. That's an incredibly important thing to look at, as many men will feel that way and have those little pity parties. What would you say in invitations to the pity party or whatever?
The invitations were out, like I love to read, and I'm reading that book by Sean, and he's talking about he'll never forget the taste of the gun and the oil in his mouth.
Oh, wow.
And I may have never got there, but I don't forget where I came from. I never forget that, the sheriff coming, kicking me out, leaving everything behind.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's,
I don't want to go there again. It taught me disciplines. It taught me that, because I could do one air duct and, if it's a big enough job, you're making anywhere, from 700 to $2,000 and it's a day's work. And that would hold me off for the whole month. And I'd get maybe one of those. As I got back into it, I learned to throw. I learned to live on very little. So I was throwing anywhere from 90% of my income back into my business, living off. I was getting paid last. When people say that, I totally get that.
Oh yeah.
I get that. And so I don't want to live that way again.
No, I've done that. It's not a good way to run a business. Yeah. And I think I want to sit in this, using your past as a learning experience, because I once posted this thing as like, what are you, it was something about moving forward, like continue, fail forward. And a couple people responded about how it's dangerous to forget the past. And I was like, yeah, but there's a massive difference between using your past as experience, because, no one super successful has never failed.
Right.
It's not in the equation. You have to fail to reach success. But there's a massive difference between using your past to propel you and using your past as a, pacifier, or a lot of guys will do that, and they'll just sit in it and replay it and sit in it
Yeah.
and replay it instead of like using it for fuel. I think there's a massive difference in success based on those types of responses.
Well, for me, it was Big Book of AA. They talk about don't regret the past, nor just shut the door on it. And when I got sober, if I would have got a little notebook of all the things that's going to happen in my life, up to, we'll just say first 20 years, bad things in red and the good things, not highlighted. If I would have looked at the things that would have happened, I probably would have said, no, I'm going to stay in my shit.
Yep.
And I didn't, I'm glad that I didn't.
Yep.
So I do not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on. The problem with my past is I used to speak victimese. I used to be the victim. Mom loved brother best, last pick to kickball. Just whatever excuse I could find to take away the way I felt. And I don't have to be that way now.
So I remember just going through some of those experiences as a kid and realizing that those don't define me. Like, I don't need to sit in that and act that same way. I was a kid. Like, it's just different. And some guys just never get past the kid.
Right. One of the beauties of Facebook is connecting with my friends from elementary school, and Kevin's got an impersonation of who Kevin thought he was in kindergarten, first, second, third grade. And my friends say, oh, you were the coolest dude. You did this, you did that. Oh, you had, the way they think about me and the way I felt about myself is completely different. In AA, we do a thing called amends. And whenever anybody has made an amends with me, I don't remember the stuff that they said they did. It doesn't affect me the same way as the way it, they did this and I don't even remember it, but it bothered them so bad they drank over it, or that it kept them oppressed. And I'm the same way. When I made amends, they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Are you sure? So
yeah.
So we got a thing called keep our side of the street clean. So that's where I'm at now. I got the street sweeper out. I keep my side of the street clean. But also my sponsor's name's Easy Ramos. Ed Ramos is part of this group as well. And he says, he always calls me partner. And it's like, yeah, but if you have a pile of poop and you take a shovel and you scoop up your side, but you leave the other side, you still got the smell. So sometimes you have to do a little more work than just keeping the side of the street clean. I'm very blessed that Ed Ramos has I met him a year after my dad passed in 99. And he's been a father figure to me in a lot of ways. He's really God threw him into my life at a perfect time. And, the things I found out about my earthly father in the last 2 years has just blown me away. And it's really defined in a good way. I found out that he's not my dad. I did a DNA test and I found out that Billy Blue is not my father. And found out that I'm a product of rape. And I found out that my father, Billy Blue, never told me, never let me once know. My mom never let me once know. So, product of rape, people think that, oh, if that happened to me, I'd abort it. Well, I'm glad my parents didn't. I'm glad, I found out more about Billy Blue in the last 2 years than I thought I ever knew. And the sad part is when I look in the mirror, I'd always say the best compliment is looking in the mirror and seeing my father's. And people still say I look like him. And then my son Mitchell, at 15 years old, found out that I'm not his father. So now I can at that time, I could not understand what he went through. And now I do. And the funniest thing is when Mitchell found out that my dad wasn't my dad biologically, he's like, Grandpa's not my grandpa? And I'm like, dude, Grandpa's still your grandpa. My dad was never biologically his grandfather, and he knew that. So
yeah, that's a cool That's a cool story. I mean, I'm sure it hit you hard at first. I can imagine it would be really difficult.
Yeah, it's like, it still hurts.
Yeah.
But and I think I learned it at the right time. If I would have learned it earlier in my addiction, it would have been a weapon. It would have been another, cloak of invisibility for me to not get sober.
Yeah.
So, God doing for me what I can't do for myself. He obviously knew exactly the right time, and it hurt, and it still hurts because I feel ripped off. But honestly, my dad died in my arms telling me he loves me. So,
yep.
So, and
yeah.
But it's weird finding out that I got at least 12 half siblings out there.
Wow.
And then the best part is I met I call her my half sister, first cousin from New York, Debbie. We're connected on DNA, and I actually went to New York to New York to visit her, and we've become really good friends. And I tell her this is the best thing that I got out of the DNA was her, because she's such a great person.
Yeah.
And she's from Brooklyn. She's she lives in Jersey. She's got a little attitude, but she's feisty, and I love her.
Yeah,
that's what I need.
That comes with that territory, man. I have yet to meet someone from there that hasn't been like that. And you just got to love it. You got to love it. I mean, I just learned to appreciate, I live in Boston, in the Massachusetts area. So the Boston thing too, it's the same thing. You just got to learn to love it. But that is so cool. It's all about what good can come out of everything. And that is definitely something good that came out of that. And plus, no DNA can strip amazing memories and the things that your non-biological father did to raise you as your father. And I also think, man, what a gift to be able to connect with your non-biological kids based on that same situation where they've gone through this, where they're going through the same thing.
Yeah, it's helped a lot. It really has. I just, Kylie and my oldest sons, they have two half brothers that would call me dad, and Scott and James are older. They knew I was their dad, but I visit, I take them with us when we do stuff, and we have relationships. They've gotten older. James is in Germany and Scott's in New Jersey. And, but that relationship's cool as well.
Yeah.
I think it just prepped me for what I was going to find out about myself.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Kevin, it's been really cool talking to you about, perseverance, how it's like, what it's like to live in California during a pandemic, your thoughts on politics, The Office. I really liked having the talk about respecting The Office. All of these things have been incredible. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, no problem. My pastor, Joe Fury, he's the one that pointed out my quality of perseverance, because he saw me go through peaks and valleys.
Yep.
And he goes, man, you hold your, I've been told I hold my mud well, and he's pointed out that I have the gift of perseverance. So, today I'm a minister of recovery and reconciliation. I used to be the guy that was uninvited to weddings and funerals, and now I get to perform them. So that's how God is in my life.
That's cool. Thanks a lot, brother. Really appreciate your time.
Scott, thank you so much. Be blessed, to be safe.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Brotherhood of Fatherhood podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends, your family, and follow us on social media. If you are a father, make sure you join our Facebook group, the Brotherhood of Fatherhood. Hit the subscribe button and tune in next time for more podcasts from the Brotherhood of Fatherhood.